Hi, I'm Goff and this is my video on visualizing Cityrail live train data. You can visit me at gofflouis.com. Just recently the New South Wales Transport for New South Wales had released live train data for the Cityrail network, allowing application developers, or at least select application developers, to access the live positioning of certain trains on the Cityrail network. I had taken the time to analyze some of these applications, and by sniffing the network traffic I was able to find out exactly how these applications communicated to their servers and how the real-time information was being queried and what was actually in the replies from the server, and at least make an educated guess on just what the data was and how to interpret it. So in this case I've actually borrowed the data from Transit Times Plus, being one of the easier ones to actually use. I had dumped the data over a period of 24 hours at intervals of around 15 to 30 seconds, and the data came out in the JSON format. However, it needed a bit of interpreting, so I knocked up a few simple C programs to convert the data into comma-separated values, which I then eventually converted into a KML file so I could plot with Google Earth, and that way we can get a visual sense of how the Cityrail network is operating. In this case, each arrow indicates a vehicle which is being tracked. One thing to note is that not all Cityrail train vehicles are currently under tracking, so some trains will not actually appear. The labelling is the first four letters or numbers of the trip ID, which has been chosen in order to be a bit shorter than the full trip ID, otherwise it makes the plot relatively cluttered. So in this case we can see what's happening at a given time. So I just selected a 24-hour interval to plot, and we started at midnight, and we can see that at midnight the network is quieting down and there's a very few movements up till about 4 AM when the network starts picking up, and in peak time it's really busy. It looks like ants pretty much running around a nest. Now there seems to be some spurious lines where trains seem to be jumping off the track and into some predefined points, it seems, but it doesn't seem to be the case, or it doesn't seem to be a problem with my conversion software, because as far as I can see these sorts of spurious data are in the recorded data as well, which is kind of interesting, which may be the reason why this is a bit of a beta. But I presume it may be the case where there is no location data for a while. We might get one of those jumps which sort of jump off the line and then come back on. That explains all the mess. Now I haven't actually filtered any of that because that takes a little bit more effort, but it may be entirely possible to work just by looking at how far the distance is between 2 points to actually filter out those spurious jumps. But you can see we're simulating at a faster than real time rate, with a time shown in the top corner, and just letting Google Earth animate it as per usual, with it set to a moderate rate of animation. So that's the network as a whole, which you can see some of the branch lines like the Blue Mountains line and the Richmond line having much lower activity because of the way the lines are made and the services, how they're scheduled, but the main part of the network is obviously quite busy. In this case we've zoomed into a smaller part of the network. In this case it's Blacktown railway station, and we're looking at it at a bird's eye view, and you can see this is where the Penrith line and the Richmond line splits apart, and you can see the train services coming in and out, and you can see some sort of jumps, sort of jump away from the line and then back onto the line again. I'm not exactly sure why that might be the case, but you can definitely see the train sort of splitting up between Penrith and Richmond line and heading in both directions. So it's kind of like looking at the trains coming in and leaving the station without actually being at the station. So if we just move down the network, we can see in this case Granville station, and where the south line splits from the western line. You can see it doesn't quite seem to follow the curvature of the rail line, and that's likely because it's reporting at certain known marker locations with a time granularity which isn't very, I guess, isn't very frequent. So now we move down to Lidcombe and Sydney Olympic Park, and you can see the sprint platform train just hopping back and forth. It's doing the loop around Sydney Olympic Park, and that's kind of hypnotic to watch, sitting here and just staring at it for a while. And now we move to Lakemba, where it seems like the network has been engineered for the two trains moving in the opposite direction to pretty much meet at the platform every time. So maybe it's a coincidence or maybe it's by design, but you can see, because it's live data, when trains actually get delayed, they don't quite meet at the same spot every time. Okay, and now we're moving up to the Y between Regent's Park, Sefton and Birrong. And you can see some of the trains going via Regent's Park and going via Sefton. And interestingly, the leg that sits, or the leg of the Y that sits between Regent's Park and Birrong, never seems to have any direct activity. It looks like that the live data is not available for that part of the line, at least, and so we get lots of strange jumping, and those trains may be the ones that are flying through Regent's Park and going down through Birrong. But we can sort of see just how the services sort of run between different lines, and if we then take the time to zoom out, you can get a sort of better perspective of the network and how trains are being shuffled through Lidcombe and through the South Line, and how that interacts with the Inner West Line in this case. And yeah, it's just quite a pretty animation to watch. Of course, if one were to take the time, they could always analyse the data somewhat more and sort of derive where the reporting positions are, and maybe derive something to do with the velocity of the trains between certain locations. But for now, I'm not exactly bothered. And there we are.